Hey everyone, it's Chris here, and today I'm going to talk about how your hiking gear evolves and our everlasting search as hikers for that perfect gear setup. Today is a year to the day that I started my hike of the Overland Track, which was one of my bucket list hikes that I'd been planning to do for years. And I was just thinking back over that and thinking about all of the planning and preparation I'd done as part of getting ready to do that hike. And looking back at the gear that I put together in my setup then, it's interesting to see how things have changed in my gear setup over the last year. So I've either removed a piece of gear altogether, changed out a piece of gear with something else that I think works better for me, or added a new piece of gear that was something I wasn't using at all before, but have now started to. So here's a really quick list of all the pieces of gear that have changed in my setup over the last year. My cook pot and utensil. What I use to filter my water. Trowel, my food bag, my knife, and my shoes. Well, the hiking boots aren't completely ruled out yet anyway. So while they're not huge changes overall, they're tweaks that I've made to my gear over the last year that have just added to the enjoyment that I have when I'm out on hikes. What happens is, as you start getting out and doing more and more hikes, you start to think about how you can improve your comfort, your enjoyment, your efficiency, or the functionality of your gear, or all of the above, to improve the way that you get out and enjoy your hikes. And this starts a lot of people out on a mission to get their base weight of all their gear down as low as possible. And by base weight, that means all of the gear that you're carrying minus your food and water. But it's about striking the right balance as well between weight and comfort. So for example, there's no point in getting a super light sleeping bag that's only suitable for 3 seasons if you're going out and doing hikes in the middle of winter, and that bag's just not going to keep you warm enough. And also for packs, for example, there's no point having a super lightweight pack if it's going to cause you discomfort as you're hiking along and doesn't have the padding that you need. Depending on how far you want to take it with your gear, you may end up in the position of having multiple types of the same piece of gear. So for example, multiple sleeping bags or multiple tents. And that introduces then the luxury of choice about which is the best one to use for a particular type of hike that you're doing. Now, I'm not condoning having multiples of anything and everything in your hiking gear. That becomes a significant expense. Right now for me, I have 1 tent, 1 sleeping bag, and 1 backpack that I use for multi-day hikes. And that's enough for me right now for the type of hikes I'm doing. Having said that, I do have plans to start doing longer distance hikes in the future. And so I'm starting to think about some of those probably bigger ticket items that I need to consider if I'm going to be starting to do those type of hikes and the weight that I'm going to be carrying over those distances. So because I'm planning to add a new type of hike into the mix of hikes that I do, as in those longer distance hikes, I'm starting to think about the way that I can start evolving my gear further to make it as comfortable as possible for me when I'm doing those bigger distances. So the evolution and tweaking of your own hiking gear is going to be totally dependent on, 1, whether you see that new piece of gear as a necessity, 2, whether you think that new piece of gear is going to bring you better comfort enjoyment, efficiency or functionality, or all of the above on your hikes. And 3, what your budget is. And on that note, you don't have to go out and buy the most expensive gear. There are plenty of cheaper alternatives available on the market that'll serve the purpose for you perfectly well. It all comes down to what you see as working best for you in your gear setup. So the way your gear evolves and the tweaking that you do to your gear setup could be very gradual, or it might be more rapid, depending on how quickly you want to change out the things that you've got now and look at other improvements that you want to bring into your setup. For me, I do have some planned gear changes coming up this year, and I'll bring the details of those to you guys here on my channel as those things happen throughout the year. So what is the perfect gear list then? Well, there's no right or wrong answer to that question. It's going to be totally dependent on you and your situation and the type of hikes that you're doing or are planning to do. Evolving your gear is a fun process, and it's a big part of the enjoyment I get from planning all of my hikes and getting out and doing those. So what type of new gear or gear changes are you planning to make to your setup this year? Leave a comment down below, and if you like this video, hit the like button. If you haven't had a chance to subscribe to my channel yet, hit the subscribe button and also hit the little bell symbol to get notified of any new videos as they come out on my channel. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you out on the trail next time.